Did you know microplastics have been found in human testicles? It's a shocking revelation, isn't it? But before we delve into this discovery, let's take a step back and discuss microplastics. Microplastics, as their name implies, are tiny plastic particles, often no larger than a sesame seed. Despite their small size, they've become a massive problem. They are virtually omnipresent, infiltrating every corner of our planet. From the highest peaks of Mount Everest to the deepest trenches of the ocean, microplastics have left their mark. You might be surprised to learn that they're not just in our environment, but in us as well. This brings us to the recent study that has raised eyebrows worldwide. Published in Toxicological Sciences, it revealed the presence of microplastics in a place you'd least expect: human testicles. Researchers employed a technique called pyrolysis gas chromatography mass spectrometry and identified 12 types of microplastics, including polyethylene and PVC, within their samples. First, we need to understand what microplastics are. So let's dive right in. Microplastics are tiny pieces of plastic less than 5 millimeters in length. To put that into perspective, that's smaller than a grain of rice. They're not a specific kind of plastic, but rather any type of plastic fragment that fits within this size category. This includes fragments from larger plastics that have degraded over time, as well as microbeads, tiny plastic spheres found in some cosmetic and personal care products. Now, where do these microplastics come from? They're everywhere, really. They originate from a variety of sources, including plastic waste, synthetic textiles, and even car tires. When these items are used, worn down, or discarded, they can break down into these minuscule particles. Larger plastic items like water bottles or shopping bags can also fragment into microplastics over time due to exposure to the elements, such as sunlight and wave action. These tiny particles are incredibly hardy. They can survive in a variety of environments, from the highest mountain peaks to the deepest ocean trenches. And that's where the problem lies. Because of their small size and durability, microplastics have invaded almost every ecosystem on Earth. They've been found in the soil we grow our food in, the water we drink, and even the air we breathe. And yes, they've made their way into us too. A recent study found that 100% of subjects had measurable amounts of microplastics in human and canine testicles. This suggests that these tiny invaders can infiltrate our bodies, potentially posing significant health risks. The pathways of exposure are not yet fully understood, but we do know that we can ingest or inhale them, or they can enter our bodies through our skin. Microplastics are everywhere, but how do they get inside us? This is a question that scientists are still trying to answer. But one thing is certain: with the increasing plastic pollution globally, understanding and addressing the microplastics menace is more critical than ever. Microplastics don't just magically appear in our bodies, they follow a path. Now let's delve into how these tiny, invasive particles embark on their journey into our systems. Our first point of contact with microplastics is often through ingestion, specifically from our food and water. These minuscule particles have been found in a wide variety of sources, from seafood and table salt to bottled water and even beer. When we consume these items, we unwittingly take in these microplastics as well. We will cover the microplastics in our food in the next chapter, but first let's talk about these insidious little grains a bit more. Microplastics are so tiny that they can pass through our digestive system without us even knowing. In addition to what we eat and drink, the air we breathe is another point of entry for microplastics. They become airborne, floating around us in the form of dust or tiny fibers shed from synthetic clothing and textiles, so cotton is still the healthiest option. When we inhale, these particles can make their way into our respiratory system. Not to mention, we are also exposed to microplastics through our skin. Products like cosmetics, toothpaste, and even some soaps contain microplastics. When we use these products, microplastics can potentially be absorbed through our skin and enter our bloodstream. But that's not all. Microplastics can also enter our bodies indirectly. For instance, when animals ingest microplastics, these particles can accumulate in their tissue. When we eat these animals, we may also ingest the accumulated microplastics. The journey of microplastics is a stealthy one. They are so small and pervasive that they can infiltrate our bodies through multiple pathways, often without us even realizing it. And while these particles may be tiny, their potential impact is anything but. Now that we know how they get inside us, let's pinpoint some food sources that are known to be contaminated with microplastics. We'll explore that in the next segment. Microplastics have been found in a variety of foods, often due to environmental contamination or packaging. Here are some common foods that are likely to contain microplastics. Seafood, both fish and shellfish. Microplastics have been found in the digestive systems of fish. Since many fish are consumed whole or with parts of their digestive system intact, microplastics can be ingested by humans. Then there's shellfish. Bivalves such as mussels, oysters, and clams filter large volumes of water to feed, making them particularly prone to accumulating microplastics. When consumed whole, these microplastics can enter the human digestive system. Next, sea salt. Studies have detected microplastic particles in sea salt samples from various parts of the world. The contamination likely occurs during the salt extraction process from seawater. Next, bottled water. Microplastics have been found in many brands of bottled water. These particles may originate from the bottling process or the breakdown of plastic bottles over time. Microplastics can also be present in other beverages packaged in plastic containers, including soft drinks, juices, and alcoholic beverages. Some tea bags made from synthetic fibers can release billions of microplastic particles into the tea when steeped in hot water. Even produce can be contaminated with microplastics in agricultural soils, often from the use of sewage sludge as fertilizer or plastic mulch, can be taken up by crops. While research is ongoing, there is evidence that microplastics can be absorbed by plants, especially through the roots. Microplastics have even been detected in honey samples, likely due to environmental contamination and the presence of microplastics in the air that bees come into contact with. Similar to honey, sugar can become contaminated with microplastics during production and processing. The use of plastic in food packaging and processing can introduce microplastics into food items. This is especially true for single-use plastics and plastic containers used for storage and transport. So what do you think? Can these tiny microplastics be harmful to our health? We're covering the importance of these microplastics from a health standpoint. Microplastics in our bodies can lead to severe health issues. This isn't some far-off dystopian future. It's happening here now, and the implications are alarming. In addition to their appearance in testicles, these microscopic invaders have been linked to a decrease in sperm counts. The exact cause of this decline is still under investigation, but the presence of microplastics is a likely contributor. But the threats don't end there. Microplastics are an area of active research. Microplastics have been detected in several parts of the human body, raising concerns about their potential health impacts. Here are some key areas where microplastics have been found in human blood samples. These particles can enter the bloodstream through ingestion or inhalation, and once in the blood, they can be transported throughout the body. This discovery suggests that microplastics can penetrate biological barriers and potentially affect various organs and tissues. Studies have also identified microplastics in lung tissue, likely due to the inhalation of airborne microplastic particles. The presence of microplastics in the lungs raises concerns about respiratory health and potential inflammatory responses. Microplastics have also been found in the human gastrointestinal tract, including the stomach and intestines. The presence of microplastics in the gut can lead to physical damage, inflammation, and disruption of the gut microbiome. Microplastics have been detected in human feces, indicating that they pass through the digestive system. This finding confirms that microplastics are ingested and can travel through the entire digestive tract before being excreted. And microplastics have been found in the placentas of unborn babies. This discovery indicates that microplastics can cross the placental barrier, potentially exposing fetuses to these particles. The presence of microplastics in the placenta raises concerns about potential impacts on fetal development and long-term health. The presence of microplastics in these parts of the body raises several potential health concerns, including inflammation and tissue damage. Microplastics can cause physical irritation and damage to tissues, leading to inflammation and potentially contributing to various health issues. Increased chemical exposure, microplastics can carry harmful chemicals, such as phthalates and bisphenol A or BPA, which can leach into the body and disrupt endocrine function or cause other toxic effects. Immune response disruption. The body may recognize microplastics as foreign invaders, triggering an immune response that could lead to chronic inflammation and other immune-related conditions. Microbiome imbalance. Ingested microplastics may disrupt the gut microbiome, potentially affecting digestion, nutrient absorption, and overall gut health. Researchers suggest that microplastics may also pose risks such as heart attacks and strokes. These tiny particles, often smaller than a strand of hair, can make their way into the bloodstream. Once there, they can cause inflammation and plaque buildup in the arteries, increasing the risk of heart disease and stroke. The existence of these particles in such intimate parts of the human body is a stark reminder of our close relationship with the environment, a relationship that is becoming increasingly toxic due to our reliance on plastic. The health risks associated with microplastics are not limited to those we've discussed so far. Scientists are still uncovering the full extent of the potential damage of plastics, not only on the planet, but on humans as well. Younger generations in particular are at risk. With plastic pollution increasing globally, their lifetime exposure to microplastics will likely be much higher than previous generations. Today's children are tomorrow's adults, and the health risks they face from microplastics today will follow them into adulthood. This is not just a personal health issue, but a public health crisis. Microplastics are ubiquitous, and their health implications are far-reaching. No one is immune, no matter how healthy you are. The question is not if we are exposed to microplastics, but how much we are exposed and what this exposure means for our health. The presence of microplastics in our bodies certainly raises a red flag, but what can we do about it? The answer to this question is not simple, but it is one we must confront head-on to protect our health. Stay tuned as we delve into potential strategies for mitigating the microplastics menace. I know that the picture sounds pretty dire. Of course, reducing our use of plastics with measures such as recycling and cutting down on plastic consumption is necessary, but it's going to probably take hundreds of years for our waters to be clean again if we stopped all plastics right now. So that's not a good option to protect our health and the health of our loved ones. To mitigate the potential health impacts of microplastics, individuals can, however, adopt several strategies to reduce their exposure. These strategies span various aspects of daily life, including food and water consumption, air quality, and consumer choices. First, reduce ingestion of microplastics by drinking filtered water. You can use advanced filtration systems. Install water filters that are capable of removing microplastics, such as reverse osmosis or activated carbon filters. Be aware of bottled water so that you are cautious, as studies have found microplastics in many brands. Choose filtered tap water over bottled water. Next, reduce packaged food consumption by choosing fresh, unpackaged foods. Opt for fresh produce and bulk items instead of pre-packaged foods to minimize contact with plastic packaging. Avoid plastic packaging whenever possible. Choose products with alternative packaging materials like glass, paper, or metal. Take care when preparing food by avoiding heating plastics. Do not heat food in plastic containers or use plastic wrap in microwaves, as heat can cause microplastics to leach into food. Select safe utensils. Use glass, stainless steel, or ceramic cookware and utensils rather than plastic ones. Clean your air by investing in air purifiers with HEPA filters to reduce airborne particles, including microplastics, in your home. Also, improve the ventilation by ensuring good ventilation in living spaces to help remove indoor pollutants. Minimize dust with regular cleanings. Dust and vacuum regularly to reduce the accumulation of microplastics in household dust. Clean with microfiber cloths, which can trap dust and particles more effectively. Become a conscious consumer by choosing natural fibers. Opt for clothes made from natural fibers like cotton, wool, or silk instead of synthetic materials like polyester, which shed microfibers during washing, distributing to your entire wardrobe. Support products and brands that prioritize sustainability and minimize plastic use. Reduce single-use plastics. Use reusable shopping bags, water bottles, and food containers to decrease reliance on single-use plastics. Avoid microbeads in your personal care products and cosmetics. Where there are larger beads, there are even smaller pieces of plastic. Maintain an antioxidant-rich diet by consuming foods which can help mitigate the oxidative stress potentially caused by microplastics. Also, maintain a balanced diet to support overall health and resilience against potential toxins. Unfortunately, you are unlikely to find a medical doctor who will consider that your heart flow or trouble breathing could be related to plastics, so you're on your own with this one. Also, determination of the existence is often done during autopsy, and that's a bit late. By adopting these plastic reduction strategies, individuals can significantly reduce their exposure to microplastics and potentially mitigate the associated health risks. While it's challenging to eliminate exposure entirely due to the pervasive nature of microplastics, these steps can help minimize the impact on personal health. Remember, plastics are forever. They don't degrade. Perhaps the acidity of the stomach could degrade them somewhat, but more study needs done. So, for now, avoidance is your only option to reducing these harmful microplastics that have invaded our planet. If you enjoy my videos, I would love to have you subscribe to my channel and partake in my YouTube community. Share this info with your loved ones, and I'll be back soon with another video about something you probably didn't know about before.